Desus and I had discussed pursuing separate interests for over a year prior to the show coming to an end. And that conversation solidified for us in signing overall agreements that recognized our intent to operate independent of one another, right? So as far back as June of last year, we were both pitching or looking to join existing projects as individuals. It wasn't like I'm breaking up with my girlfriend on the phone, yo, you know what I mean? Like, it was a strategy, and it was one that we all agreed on.
I mean, obviously, when the news broke about the show ending, people were very, very upset, and there was just a flood of commentary on Twitter and online, and a lot of appreciation for what you guys had done. How much of that did you absorb, and were you in any way surprised by that level of adoration for you?
No, I mean, listen, when we would tour and do live shows, there were people that got tattoos. There were people that, you know, would come to the VIP meet and greet and say things that would have me in tears in the green room, you know, like, I was really sad and depressed. You took me out of this really dark place. You know, so many stories like that. My wife and I were like on the outs, but we would sit down and like smoke a bowl and watch your show. And that brought us together. Like, literally, that's verbatim. Like, that somebody really said that. And that brought us back together and like saved our marriage, or like, you know, saved my relationship, or like I said, took me out of a dark place, or was my respite from like my shitty job that I hated, or whatever. So when that flood of like, we really appreciate the last 10 years, I wasn't surprised by it, but it just kind of like solidified to me that, to quote Spike Jonze, everything is finite. I was like, yo, listen, man, I'm determined to not force anything. If we have to force a partnership that's coming to a natural end, it's not going to be the same.
Your fans would be able to tell. They can feel that when they know performers as well as they know you guys.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So, you know, knowing that, we had a conversation. We had to sit down and we were talking about it, you know, more than a year ago. So the intent was to go our separate ways in a way that was supportive of each other.
I'm sure it was still a hard decision to make, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, like, things come to a kind of natural. They wind up and then they wind down, you know, and when they're winding down, you got to recognize that it's winding down, and not Supermax Patrick Ewing when he has 2 toddler mattresses around his knees, you know, and you know his career is coming to a close. Even though I love Pat, but, you know, at the end of his career, it was just like, okay,
right.
You know, it's time. Right. It's time.
So what's next for you?
Oh, man. Like, I wish I could say, but, you know, like.
Is it
like,
things?
It's definitely things. And I've always been, like, I started writing. So digging a lot more into that, features, series, books, you name it. Like, I want to get into all of it. So that's what's on the horizon.
After your show announced that it was ending, then a few days later, Samantha Bee's show got canceled. And as we were talking about before, you know, it's very rare to have women, people of color, hosting these kinds of shows.
Yeah.
So do you see the late night talk show landscape changing at any point in the future? I mean,
I hope so. I feel people can look at what we did, what Sam did, and kind of just say, look at that and be like, listen, this is viable. If you let these people play to their strengths, don't water it down. Just go in there, let them do what they do, and then worry about the rest later. It'll work. You know, it worked on Viceland. People couldn't even find Viceland. I had people calling me being like, yo, what channel is this on? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, with channel 161 if you're in the Bronx. You know what I mean? Like, I used to be like, oh, it's like 161, like Yankee Stadium. Remember that? Like, I had that, like, it was like a catchphrase that I just had to press a button on my head to tell people, because people would stop me, like, you know, at Bay Plaza, the mall in the Bronx, and all over the place, and be like, yo, I saw a clip of your show on YouTube. Where do I watch it? Driving people there was, the proof is in the pudding right there. So if you have something that's buried in basic cable and it's still getting looks, still getting rave reviews from critics, still kind of shifting the paradigm of what late night is, and it used to be history too, like, that speaks a lot to the impact that you have as a creator. It speaks a lot to the fact that this is a viable product. You can get a black man, a black woman, an Asian man, an Asian woman, you name it, like gay man, a gay, anything. Like people who are not, like you said, just another white guy, to host and lead these conversations. It'll work. It'll be viable, and it'll bring you eyeballs, which is, at the end of the day, all the execs in the ivory tower want is eyeballs and numbers.